Hi everyone, how you guys doing today? I've decided to do a tag called Writers Not Writing. I've learned about this tag from the author Emma Bennet. I'm gonna link her account below so you can go check her out. But I think it's a very fun way to learn more about Authortubers in areas of life other than writing, because I already did the Authortube newbie tag where I talked more about my writing lifestyle, but this one is more just on a personal level, so let's dive straight into that. Question number 1 of this tag is, do you have a day job? And yes, I do have a day job. I'm a librarian. I used to be a children's librarian for a little bit, but now I'm an adult services librarian, so I work primarily with adults. I currently work part-time because I wanted to have more time for my family and also my hobbies such as writing. And it works great for me because I can still be a part of the library world. I love to work in libraries. Of course, it's connected to the books and writing and stuff, but also at the same time, I'm able to pick up my child from school, not every day, but almost every day. And so it really helps, to have this work-life balance. I also like that in libraries, I can do things that directly relate to my writing interests, such as doing book clubs and writing groups. So that's pretty cool. Question number 2 is, are you a reader? And of course I am a reader. I think it's really hard to be a writer without being a reader. And a lot of times people find their passion for writing by reading a lot of books and thinking, I wish I wrote a book and I told a story and it was fun for other people. So yes, I'm definitely a reader. I'm not reading as much as I would love to just because of life stuff. I have a small child and I have other responsibilities, but I do love to read. I read both fiction and nonfiction. Currently, I'm reading 90s by Chuck Klosterman, which is a nonfiction book that I'm reading for a book club. So I think it's going to be a very interesting discussion because, all of us, well, maybe not all of us, but pretty much all of us lived through the 90s in some way or another. So we're able to share our experiences going through that decade. So that's going to be interesting. And then actually there are 2 books that I'm starting to read right now. One of them is called Ghost Train, and it's by author Natalie Jacobson. And this author is given author talks at some libraries, so I was able to listen to her talk, and I think she's pretty great. She's given great writing advice, and so I got curious about her book because her book sounds pretty exciting. She used to live in Japan for like 6 years, and she was always interested in Japanese culture. So the book actually takes place in Japan, and there's some kind of a train, and that's all I know about it so far. But I'm excited to read more of that. And another book that I'm beginning to write is also thanks to her, because she mentioned it as an example during her lecture. And that one is The Man in the High Castle. The concept of it sounds pretty intriguing. It's an alternative history book, and it's basically what if the Nazi Germany won during the Second World War, and what would America look like today if that happened, which unfortunately is too close to reality, and I don't really want to know what it would look like, but in the fiction form, I'm okay with it. Question number 3 is, what are your other hobbies? And I think my main other hobby right now is painting and crafting. So I just love painting and drawing and stuff like that. This is the kind of a hobby. I'm still considering writing a hobby because it's not my job right now, and I'm not treating it as a job, which I probably should be if I want to make it in this world. But if we think about a hobby that I'm not particularly interested in turning into business at any point, it is painting. It's painting and drawing because it's just for fun, it's just for me, and I really enjoy doing it, and that's why I'm posting painting videos on this channel as well. I also had a couple of months when I explored clay jewelry, and I still have a bunch of materials for that, so I want to pick it up again because it was very fun, but it's much more difficult than it seems when you look at clay jewelry, but it's fun, so I'd like to continue that. So I think that could be another hobby of mine. One more thing I love to do is dancing. I danced as a child, and then as an adult, there was a time in my life when I was very into dancing. I was very much into dancing and exercising, and for a year or 2, and I did heels dancing. And so that is another thing that I enjoy doing, even when I don't do it formally, like taking a dancing class. I always move when I'm at home. I love to dance as I cook or just whenever I feel like it. So I will always consider it an important hobby of mine. Question number 4 is tea or coffee? So for me, I would say, it's really different, but lately it's been tea. So a couple of months ago, I was sick with a stomach virus. I couldn't drink coffee because I was just feeling so nauseous, and so I didn't feel like drinking any coffee. So I stopped drinking it for a week or so, and it cured my coffee dependency, because once you get into coffee, if you drink it every single morning in the morning, it just becomes a habit. And many times, I don't think it even helps you really wake up much. It's just more of a ritual. And so during that week, I completely, got off coffee, and I found that I can actually handle my days without coffee. So I've started drinking more tea. Most of the time, I like just pure black tea. Sometimes I like Earl Grey. My favorite green tea is probably jasmine tea. I also drink some teas that are non-caffeinated, but I don't really like things like chamomile. Sometimes I would have peppermint, not often, but my favorite non-caffeinated tea is probably like berry flavor, something like that. Question number 5 is, what are you passionate about? And I am passionate about writing and creating in general. I just love to see creatives in their field. I love watching choreographers, or dancers or writers talk about their craft, or just any person who is creating something and is passionate about it. I love that. And another thing I'm passionate about, I realize I'm passionate about social issues, especially working in the library world, which is in general very sensitive to the struggles, like the social struggles of the minorities and different segments of the population. I feel like it's just so deeply ingrained in me, like the feeling of justice. And so I am getting more and more passionate about things like supporting LGBTQ community, things like Black Lives Matter, not being a racist, being tolerant to different religions or to a lack of religion. All of this is very, very important to me. And I found that, you cannot be tolerant to intolerance. And so this is the paradox of tolerance, right? And so as I'm growing older, I'm becoming less tolerant to intolerant people. And so if you're a racist, if you are talking badly about LGBTQ community, etc., we're not going to be friends. And so I actually severed some relationships with some people in the recent years because I feel so strongly about it, and I don't want to associate myself with people who look at the world so differently and who are not accepting that the sexual orientation, the religious status, the race do not matter, and you have to treat everybody equally. So if you don't do that, we're not going to be friends. I feel very passionate about that. Question number 6 is going to let us breathe a little bit and get away from the serious topics, and it is, do you have pets? And yes, I do. I have 2 cats, Tristan and Snoop, and I'm sure if you watched my videos, you've seen them because they're always around, and the older they get, the more time they want to spend with the humans. And so Snoop is actually turning 9 very soon, in about a week. And Tristan is probably maybe 11 or 13. They didn't know how old she was when she was found, when she was in the rescue. They could tell us that she was an adult cat, not a kitten, not an elderly cat, but they couldn't tell us more than that, judging by the condition of her teeth. So we don't know her actual age. She could have been 2 when we got her, she could have been 4, she could have been 6. So it's been 9 years that we got them, so she's gotta be at least 11. But I don't know how old she is. So yeah, these are my 2 pets and I love them dearly. Question number 7 is, what was your dream job as a child? And I believe I always said I wanted to be a teacher. I was kind of a teacher's pet. I was craving adults' attention when I was little because in my family, I'm the youngest of 4 children. And so by the time I was growing up, my parents, they just didn't have the energy, I feel like, to dedicate to me. So I was always craving for approval and attention from other adults in my life. And so I love to observe teachers, and I thought that one day I'd be a teacher as well. Another thing I probably dreamed of, at least sometimes, is being a dancer or an actor, because I did musical theater for about 7 years. And so this was a part of my life that I loved a lot. And so for at least a little bit as a teenager, I thought I would try and get into an acting school, into a film school. But I ended up changing my mind and going into the field of linguistics instead. Question number 8 is, if you could live anywhere else in the world, where would that be? And for me, if we talk about the United States, I would definitely live in Washington State. I'm obsessed with Washington State. I know it's cloudy there almost all year round, and I know that, to truly figure out if you want to live there or not, you have to have a trial period, like a year where you stay there and actually feel what it feels like, because so far I've only visited it because my sister lives there, and so I go there for maybe 2 weeks at a time, and I adore it. But sometimes I know that when you actually live in a certain location, it doesn't feel the same as visiting it. But if you ask me now, like if I could pick any one state in the United States, which one would that be? That would definitely be Washington State, just because it's so beautiful. The nature is just mind-blowing, and the way the forest smells, there's like this specific smell. I remember opening the window at my sister's house and just breathing it in, and it's just the best. And so I would definitely move there. If we talk about other countries, I don't know if I would want to live anywhere else, but I'd be, maybe with the current state of affairs, yes. Probably somewhere in Europe, one of the countries that still did not lose their minds. But I would be curious to visit maybe some Nordic countries, Spain, Italy, France, Germany, Switzerland. There are a lot of countries I would be curious about, and maybe I would be able to see myself there, but since I've never been there, I cannot really tell. So as of now, I think my answer is going to be Washington State. Question number 9 is, do you speak any foreign languages? And yes, I do. I speak Russian, obviously, because that's my native language. English is my first foreign language. I also studied French and German and a little bit of Spanish. I don't normally say I speak French or German. Definitely not Spanish, because Spanish was more like just a couple of courses here or there and just whatever I learned from songs and movies. But with French and German, I used to speak them quite fluently because I learned French for 6 years in school, and then I learned German for 4 years very intensively in college. But because the way it works is that if you don't use it, you lose it, I do not feel like I speak those languages anymore. All right, bear with me because I don't know if grammar is correct, and I don't even know if I remember how to pronounce all the words, but I'll just demonstrate kind of what I remember of my school French. J'ai étudié le français pendant 6 ans à l'école et j'ai adoré ça, mais quand je suis allée à l'université, ils ne nous ont pas laissé le choix. Alors j'ai dû étudier l'allemand à la place. Let's do the same thing in German. Ich habe 6 Jahre lang Französisch in der Schule gelernt und es hat mir Spaß gemacht, aber als ich an die Uni ging, hatten wir keine Wahl, also musste ich stattdessen Deutsch lernen. Okay, so for Spanish, I wrote a little bit of a different sentence because that's how I feel about Spanish. Me encanta cómo suena el español y es un idioma muy útil aquí en los Estados Unidos, así que me encantaría aprenderlo. So that is Spanish. And then, of course, I can tell you something in Russian. Русский мой родной язык, и я говорю на нем дома, но за пределами дома я говорю по-английски, и поэтому иногда я забываю некоторые слова и начинаю мешать языки. Я всегда думала, что такого никогда не случится, но когда ты постоянно каждый день переключаешься с одного языка на другой, то иногда такое случается. Okay, that's a wrap on my language speaking ability. And final question, question number 10 is, what music would we find in your collection? And honestly, I listen to very, very, very different music, and it just depends on my mood. I listen to pop, I listen to rap, I listen to rock, I listen to jazz, to sometimes like folk, like all sorts of different songs. It just depends on my mood. I think if you look at my Amazon Music collection, it would be half of songs that I've discovered as an adult and half of songs that I encountered as a teen or a child, and so I like them not because they fit my music taste right now, but because they remind me of a certain time in my life. And so some of the songs are very much like being a teenager in 2000s. There are some songs I listen to intently for the lyrics. There are some songs I like the beat for dancing. There's some songs that are so mellow and I love them because they kind of sound like the soundtrack. You know, in many TV shows, they have those soundtracks that play, and in the movies as well. The soundtrack that plays when the car is driving down the road. Like, that's the vibe that I often love for kind of like background music. So yeah, I just love all sorts of music. I guess the only music that I can identify right now that I don't listen to is Russian music. You know, I don't listen to any songs in Russian at all, unless I feel very nostalgic and there's like one song or two songs that I want to listen to. But most of the time I listen to music in English, sometimes to music in other languages like French or Spanish, but all sorts of moods, all sorts of genres, just depending on my vibe. And these are all the questions in this tag. I'm gonna tag Gabby from Reading to Write to do this tag as well. I'm curious to learn more about her and anybody who wants to do this tag, because I found it by accident. I wasn't tagged in it, but I tagged myself, so you can tag yourself as well. I know when you have an Authortube, your main topic is always writing and maybe some reading, but this gives us a nice glimpse into who you are as a person outside of writing, so I think it's a very fun tag to do. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!